chance to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
Embarrassing, shameful, despicable. All of these words apply to the Saints' performance yesterday. Welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. I figured I'd start us off with that not quite positive take on the game yesterday. It was fucking awful.
Yeah, no positivity is deserved. And honestly, I don't even know if that's enough adjectives or if you can even put adjectives on how bad that was. So,
might be the worst game in the DA era, which is saying something.
That's saying
after
something,
last
dude.
year.
yeah, I mean, there's reason to be pissed. Just don't even know where to start, for a lot of this. And it just, well, actually, no, take that back. We know where to start. It's squarely with the offense. But with the offense, it's like, what the hell, man? I mean, because, I don't know. So much was wrong in this game. And I think our problem is that, we hate being proven wrong. It's like in the offseason, it was, before Derek Carr got here, it was, well, yeah, P. Carmichael had to Nick's take earlier. He had to call shit plays because he had shit guys to run the offense. Well, okay, we got Derek Carr, so now we have a competent quarterback, and with a competent quarterback and all the personnel, then surely this will be better, But no, I mean, Carr comes in, and you're like, well, Carr seems to be okay, but it's the offensive line that is playing like shit. Well, yesterday, the offensive line actually protected him for the most part, at least a hell of a lot better than their first few games. But it still wasn't enough, And at every turn so far, we keep getting proven wrong. And I mean, that's just a tiny example of what was wrong yesterday. But that's at least one thing I'm thinking to start things off.
Yeah, I would say you're saying competent quarterback. I agree he is. He was not yesterday. He was not a competent quarterback. I don't know what happened. His every read was off. He was checking down so early. It was crazy. I don't understand why, all of a sudden. I mean, I understand. If he was fearing getting hit and injury, maybe that's a contributing factor. But he was literally checking down within a second and a half of, of protection. The reads were bad. We saw multiple plays where, there was a receiver open underneath on some 3rd and, 5-6, and he's trying to throw, a deep out instead of just taking that first down. He hung AK out to dry multiple times on those, checkdowns. It just wasn't good. I don't know if, no one's blameless, obviously, in the offense. But what's the biggest problem? Everything was a problem this week. Prentice's performance was cut-worthy today. I mean, if they let him go today, it's perfectly warranted. Olave seemed disinterested. Carr was terrible. I don't know why. Play calling, it's always easy to say play calling, but when no one's executing plays, it's hard to say if it's play calling. There were people open. We weren't connecting. AK ran, I feel, ran his heart out.
He ran hard, man.
Yeah.
He averaged, 4.6 a carry. So behind our line, I mean, that's an all-time performance this year.
I'll get the column positives out of the way. There's two guys that I don't have anything against after this. Just two. There should never be only two. But AK and MT. I think when his number got called.
You're saying
on offense.
On offense. I mean, I don't know how much defense is picking we're going to do. When AK got his number called, he did everything he could. Thomas didn't have any issues with, when the ball came his way. He even, adjusted a couple times to catch the ball. But other than that, Yeah,
and look, I'm going to say this. I am so happy we did not do an instant reaction pod like we did the week before. That is just, it would have been bad. You know,
yeah.
and
Well,
it's like I needed a full. What's the Cam Jordan always tweets
24
about
hour
the
rule?
24-hour rule? I needed 24 hours to kind of like digest it and just let everything, the emotional aspect of it, calm down.
Yeah.
And then kind of see the highlights on TV later on at night, and just kind of, you know, do reading and hear what all the analysts have to say, and just kind of, I guess, blend that together with what I saw. But man, looking at some of these stats, like Alvin Kamara's 13 catches for 33 yards, which is 2.5 yards a pop. That's including a 10-yard catch.
Yeah, I saw
That is a bad rushing game.
bad rushing game. And as far as his, what was it, how many receptions was
13.
it? 13 for
13.
33. That's actually historic.
It is. It broke the record.
It broke the record for
Yeah.
lowest amount of yards on that many catches.
By almost 40 yards.
By a lot. By a lot.
Like, that is amazing. And then Derek Carr took 37 attempts to get 127 yards. Obviously, those two stats go hand in hand when you have 13 of them,
Right.
you know, or 14 attempts, because we had the one incompletion between the two. I mean, that is just, God, that's so fucking bad. It's historic.
Yeah. Yeah. And back to your point about not doing an instant pod reaction, you know, because we just would have been yet another voice in the wind of Saints media, Saints Twitter just being in utter shambles.
Oh, God,
last
it's
night.
bad on there.
It's
Well, it was
I
yesterday.
I went in
It should
in the
be.
evening. I gave, you know, had a break. I was with my kids, you know, kind of. They were playing with my parents mostly during the game, but, you know, game ended, went back outside. They were doing Halloween decorations and stuff, and I was just still in my head. I'm just like, what the hell? What the hell just happened? You know, and so, you know, later on that night, I went back into the Twitters, and holy shit! I mean, fur was flying left and right. You've got analysts mad at the team, AK mad at basically everything. Then you've got bloggers and mad at you know, veteran podcast media guys, you know, TJ and Underhill going at it. It was like, oh, now we even got our own people beefing against each other. This is
Oh, God,
great.
it was a Saints civil war
Yeah,
on
Like,
Twitter last
well,
night.
I first saw it because Brooke Kirchhofer, I think I'm saying her name right, she tweeted the video of AK, and she quote tweeted TJ Jones, and the caption of her tweet was, wow, I guess we're really going to have to start putting watermarks on our videos now. But anyway, here it is. And I'm like, whoa, that seemed a little bit shady. What's all that about?
Yeah.
You know, and then I went in and
should
saw
do that, though, by
the
the
whole
way.
beef. I
They
mean,
really
they're
should.
well, they're actually going to have to now.
Yeah, they should brand everything they do.
But my point is, like, the immediate reaction world was just utter shambles. It's like those scenes in movies when you walk into the middle of town and it's like people just rioting and looting, and like that's the. I don't know that we're necessarily out of that state yet either, because
We're not.
it was only inflamed further today when DA's asked point blank, so what are you going to do to address? Do you see any changes in coaching or whatever coming
And we
because
did
of
nothing.
and you get no.
Yeah,
It just no, and then silence.
And that's the thing. We weren't expecting them to, because they're not going to. It's not in DA's makeup. It's not in the Saints' makeup.
Not in his makeup or translation. And I've seen this out there. Doesn't have the balls. You know, and I would agree with that.
I
Like,
don't think that's it.
I
think
don't.
it's.
I don't know. I mean,
You're going to see this for a year, I can tell you. They're going to run this with Carr for the whole year. It could look terrible the whole time. They're probably not going to change anything for the whole year.
I agree
In
with
the
that.
offseason, if it's like this, I think we talked about this. If it looks like this at the end of the season, they have
Yeah.
to do something, and they better.
Well,
But I think they're going to give it a season, and with Carr and Carmichael and the whole thing.
I agree with that.
And I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm just saying we know that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
pretty certain.
And again, I'm not saying I agree with the decision, but that is what Nick's right. That is what's going to happen. They're going to give it the whole year.
Yeah.
You're going to see Carr the whole year, unless he gets killed behind the offensive line.
which it would be his second death. And I'll say this though. I mean, to clarify a little bit, it's like, no. Do I think that I'm not advocating for getting rid of Pete Carmichael midstream, mid-season? I'm not advocating for an OC change, because that I've had people that I was talking to yesterday say like, well, you know, how much worse could it be? I'm like, well, completely
It can't be any
changing
worse.
It can't, but it's also never worked.
But completely changing your offense. I mean, it takes a whole offseason to
Correct.
install
That's what I
an
mean.
offense. Like, you can't just say, we need a new offensive coordinator now. Like, that's like essentially tanking. I mean, now play calling,
That's what I was gonna say.
changing
Play
the play
calling
caller
is
is
a
different.
different thing.
Right. So
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know.
Give Ronald
that-
Curry a chance.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the play calling can get much better.
Right.
I mean, much worse, much worse.
Well, the system isn't going to change in midseason. We all agree on that. But the play calling is something that you can tweak. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
It's
let
still
somebody
not
else
something
have a
you've
crack
seen
at
be
it.
successful. You've occasionally had an offensive coach take the play calling back from a struggling offensive coordinator.
Sean
That's
Payton
not-
back with the Giants or the Cowboys.
Well, he lost his job, right? He lost his play calling when he was OC with
Mm-hmm.
the Giants.
Yeah.
Because it was going very poorly. You've seen that a few times,
Mm-hmm.
but to say Ronald Curry, a guy who's never called plays, to just assume.
in the preseason, he is.
I know.
well,
but
that's
you
we're
know,
not really going to hang our hats on that, are we?
right. So I'm just saying.
It can't
It's
be worse.
well, it's something.
It
but
can't be worse.
to
Corey
me,
phrased it best. It's not something you want to try and do unless it's. I think it even has to be worse than it is now before you try and just
Yeah.
completely pivot
Well,
because it's hard to do. And that's why it's not really been a successful move. Now, in the offseason, 100% right out the gate, if we're this bottom, 5-10 offense at the end of this season, then he's got to go.
At this rate, we will be, yeah.
Right. And that's what he said. He's got the weapons now. That's not an excuse. The offensive line's been horrible. I get it. But that's his job to also make sure that gets sorted out. So if he doesn't,
yeah.
this is the audition. This is his last chance. And he's gone at the end of the season. I think.
I just wonder how. I mean, we keep saying it can get worse or can it get worse? We went from 351 total yards in week 1 to 341 to 252 to 197.
Well, the answer to can it get worse is 100% yes, because we scored points yesterday. It could be 0.
It's also
I think,
the caliber of defense involved there.
I
Got
think about
progressively
going
harder.
into Foxborough this next
Every
week.
game
and,
has been harder.
Now this isn't. No, it hasn't. The Titans had the best defense we've played.
The
so
Titans,
far.
yeah, exactly. They were the best defense we were going to play.
The Packers were number 1 when we played them.
Their defense.
Supposedly, that's what they said in the broadcast.
I mean,
Well,
that's-
I don't know what metric they were using.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Well, using the metric of my eyes, they were not.
The Bucks have been a very good defense minus 1 game, very good.
like
No,
I
I'm not saying
dominant.
I'm not saying the Bucks were a bad defense. I just think the hardest defense we've gone up against
Is
has
the
been the
Titans.
Titans.
Yeah.
Now the Bucks might be the second, I think, because in reality, Carolina's, but
Look,
that's
all
not
well
that's
and
not
good,
the point.
But we should not be putting up these pathetic stats,
Oh,
no matter
agreed.
who you
No,
play
against
with
any
this
team.
talent.
Let me just say
Against
this, and I think we have to take this, because what we're going to do on this recording is solve it, right? We're going to solve the problem, right? Which is what everyone that's like shouting it into the wind. It's like you can just hear the desperation. Like everybody wants an answer. Well, it ain't out there, and everybody wants to say is. I think that the natural tendency as fans is to desperately try to find one cause of what's going on or one person, be it a player or a coach. That's not the situation. It is on multiple levels between, at least as far as what yesterday showed. DA. Let me back up a little bit. Let's start with this. In terms of Pete Carmichael and his play calling, or what we've seen thus far, a lot of people want to say, well, we've had 4 games with him, but we've had 4 games with him and Derek Carr. I mean, we've got multiple, a full season worth going to last year, one before that. So it's not just 4 games. It is a lot of games with Carmichael calling the shots. And yet there have been experiments with other teams where they've tried to switch play callers. But, I mean, I think this is a truly unique situation with Carmichael. His entire career with Sean Payton, he was the guy, the X's and O's guru. It was
Supposedly.
supposedly, but, I mean, I think there's other reputable sources to back up at least his smarts when it comes to offensive play
Look, he
drawing.
can be smart, and I get where you're going with
But
this
what
point,
I'm
but
going is
he
that
hasn't done anything.
So where I'm going with this is like maybe it's incredibly likely, and I think this is the case, that he's in the wrong fucking role,
He
and his dad is
this role.
exactly that's what I'm saying as play caller. OC maybe, but typically your OC is the one calling plays. So I think. I'm not going to say the definition of insanity. We all know what the hell it is, but we're doing the same damn thing.
Well,
we're not making any changes. I think some kind of some kind of shift has to be made. Whether it's putting Curry in there because the play calling can't get much worse. But what I see out of the play calling, and it's not all. Look, I'll say this too, and this might be an unpopular take. the whole game was not bad play calling. There were points in the game,
The first half
especially between the 20s on first and second down, where we were moving. We did pretty damn well at times between the 20s. It was like the whole world grinded to a halt when we got in the red zone and got a third down inside the 30.
How many times
it
we
was
got to the
like
red zone?
he literally
Once?
just shat his pants.
I don't know that we got to the red zone.
I don't think we got there.
No, we were in the red zone like
the
twice.
first drive was
definitely
a field
twice.
goal, was not in the red zone.
Or when we got anywhere, when we got within field goal range, put it that way. When you're
Well,
within
that's not
field
the
goal
red
range,
zone. That's
you're
a big
within.
difference.
I know it's not the red zone, but let's just call it
Either
field
way,
goal range.
I agree with your
is
point.
He shat his pants when we got into striking distance of the end zone.
I don't know. There was plays out there that we just didn't make too. Let's be honest. When you see Carr climb the pocket, slide to the left, the defender on Prentice comes straight at Carr and he lobs it right over him, hits Prentice in both hands. There is no one up that sideline.
Right,
Yeah, that's a 30-yard play.
That's a 30. That's field goal range right there.
Yeah.
You see that him fumbling right after the defense comes up huge.
Yeah.
Game 7-3. Yadam picks it off. Prentice immediately fumbles inside the 5-yard line.
And I got more upset about that.
But why
because,
are we running the fullback? then?
Well,
But I was getting ready to say a little earlier when y'all were talking about the Twitter meltdown. It was funny. One of the things we all watched, the guy's like, it's 3rd and 1. Why not run the fullback? Well, we know why we don't want to run the fullback.
Yeah.
He showed us why we don't want to run the fullback.
Yeah,
so
that
that's
was
not a fix.
made readily
Why would you
apparent.
give Prentice his first touch of the season with 26 or whatever seconds left in the half on
yeah.
the 1-yard line coming out of the end zone? Why
DA
the fuck?
I
you
mean,
give
we
him
can
the
say
ball?
that, but it was a 5-yard run, very successful. A dude that's in the NFL should not fumble.
DA spoke
But
to
he's
it.
a fullback. No offense, Corey. He's a fucking fullback.
No, I think he gave
SP
all.
did it all the time. It's
He
a
gave
staple
all
of our offense,
fullbacks,
dude.
current and former, myself included, a black eye on that fumble. Let's just call a spade there. But no, in all seriousness, DA in his postgame hit on it and said, which almost made me more upset, is that the only reason they even ran that play was to have enough room to kneel on it. Like, they weren't
Correct.
trying to get yardage to score. They were
No,
only,
I get that. There's 20-something
but-
seconds
but I'm
left.
like,
You don't
so-
need to be
Also,
blowing
in
it.
No, but
my
I-
opinion, a very bad call by the refs
But I'm
on
like-
that play. He was dragged into the end zone. They called him.
it should have been a touchback.
It should have been a
Yeah,
touchback.
that was, yeah. Because
Agree on that. Yeah, that was.
I don't know if it was.
Yeah.
I don't know who the analyst was, but he had a good point when he was like, the momentum into the end zone is usually something when the player's own momentum brings him to the
Right.
end zone.
Not when he's thrown.
There's a
into
guy
the end zone.
dragging him into the end zone. It's-
But I mean, I was just, regardless of what we think about the play, I was just more. I was even more enraged when I was like, wait. I get kneeling on it. That's fine, kneel on it. But you ran the fullback just to get a little bit of extra room. I mean, just like, couldn't a running back have gotten you
Let Taysom do it.
a
Bring
yard?
If you're just going to do that, bring Taysom in and let him fall forward.
And also, like, I mean, I know the ball's at the one, but
this
like,
is
I
something
don't
we've
know.
done for 15 years.
So let's-
I'm don't,
Well, that's also my issue, though. We're still fucking. Someone said yesterday it was this Sean Payton karaoke offense that we're still trying to run.
Ooh,
I don't
God.
remember who the hell said it. Somebody tweeted it, and it's spot on.
There was a ton of tweets yesterday that were just so true but so bad. I was like, "Yep."
Yeah, but to
I was
my
like,
point-
"Yep." Could have gone without
But
seeing
this
that.
is literally them trying to keep the Sean Payton offense going, and I get it. Last year I got it, the whole continuity thing.
big win for Peyton yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, like the whole
he
continuity
cut,
thing.
Cut his sleeves off. That was hilarious.
And the thing is, it's not working. We don't need to continue trying to do this shit. Like, it's not working.
Yeah,
They had fucking Eric Bieniemy in the office for 8 hours last year in the off season,
yeah.
and we couldn't hire the fucking guy. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, well, there's a whole separate debate we're not going to get into about head coaching versus coordinator mentality. But let's go back to this. All right.
Well, hey, let me say this though. Look at the schedule. Okay, Bill Belichick going for his 300th win on Sunday at home. Do you think we're going to stop him there?
With what factoring in what we saw yesterday, the schedule all of a sudden looks a hell of
Daunting.
a lot difficult.
To be fair,
I
they
mean-
actually looked worse than us yesterday.
Against
If
the
you
Cowboys.
watch that
But I
game.
mean, like the Bucks looked like shit against the Eagles, and the Patriots played another NFC contender, and the Cowboys looked like shit. So it kind of fits the same
Cowboys
mold.
lost to the Cardinals, dude. I don't think
Well,
those
that was a
teams are the
Cowboy.
same.
That was a Cowboys loss. I mean, they clearly. I think the Cowboys have something going this year.
Well, we're veering off path here.
But
the
what I'm-
reality is the schedule looks daunting as
And
fuck
then
now.
and then it's not even like if you wanted to even say the Jaguars are beatable. Even Atlanta sucks, so who gives a shit about the Falcons? They beat the Falcons, that was expected. But you get the Jaguars on a short week, so even if you are trying to let's just say the
Well,
Clouds.
hold on. You got the Texans before then. They're
Oh,
fucking
that's right.
2
Yeah,
and
you
2.
got the Texans, and then you have the Jags on a short week. So
Yeah.
the Texans are no longer.
The schedule is not daunting. The
well-
schedule is.
Oh, so you feel confident in these next couple games?
No,
You
but that's not a daunting schedule.
Somewhere
Houston,
For
Indy.
for our offense, that is beyond daunting. That's Mount fucking
It's not
Everest.
it's not
mean,
good teams,
Mount
dude.
Caden?
Those teams are not making the playoffs. So
That doesn't matter. That's still our offense.
so you're
against
saying
these
the
guys?
whole league's daunting.
if
against the offense I saw
You can say
yesterday?
the Saints suck and they can't beat bad teams, but those are not
Okay.
daunting teams
Who's-
to face.
okay,
It's our
let's-
fault,
let's
not
play-
the teams
Dude,
we're
we're
facing.
not good. Like
You're saying two
I
different
mean,
things.
I'm sorry. The Bucks are 3-1. They are what their record says they are right
unless
now.
we have a miraculous about face from what we did yesterday.
You're talking about the forward schedule. They are.
I'm
not
talking
great.
about the forward- yeah,
I'm not saying
so-
we're going to beat them. I'm saying they are
Patriots.
not daunting teams. If that was the Eagles, the 49ers, that's a daunting schedule. This is an easy schedule that we may not manage.
Let me ask.
It's
okay,
still an easy schedule.
Let me
not
ask,
as
let me
easy as
ask
we
you
thought
this,
it was
Nick.
gonna
All
be.
right. So the team that played yesterday, the Saints team that played yesterday, goes into Foxborough.
They're losing.
They lose.
Is that not daunting to take the team we
That's
saw
not
yesterday?
a daunting team. No, New England is still not a daunting
It is
team.
a daunting task.
Okay, well, so it sounds Nick, like you're saying it's an even matchup taking yesterday's
No,
team
I'm
into
not talking about
It's not
the
an
matchup
even
at all. I'm
matchup.
talking about the teams. New England is not a good team.
Okay.
We may still lose,
So-
but they are not a good team.
We are not a good team.
We could be way worse. That's true, but that doesn't make them a good team just because
I didn't
we're
say
not
they
good.
were a good team. I said it's a daunting fucking part of the schedule now because we are
Yeah.
awful. It is more a reflection on how bad we are.
Let me ask you this:
We fucking suck, dude.
I
Who
understand,
do you
but it
think-
has nothing to do with the schedule.
Who's a better quarterback so far this year, C.J. Stroud or Baker Mayfield?
I don't know. It's probably.
I
a
mean,
toss-up.
Stroud's looked fucking good so far, and I think
Yeah.
he's looked a hell of a lot better than Baker. And we let Baker just
Baker's
kind
got
of
7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's 3-1. I mean, my God, I would kill for Carr to have those numbers.
yeah.
What's
Yeah.
sad is he tried to give us the game like we thought.
He did. He did try.
And
And
we
we
didn't
didn't take
take
it.
the first one, and then we gave him the ball in the 5 and gave him a free touchdown. We gave him the game.
But let's be real. If you're asking me if I would take Baker Mayfield of right now over Derek Carr of right now, I'm taking fucking Baker
Yeah,
8 times
I mean,
out of the week.
I
not
hate
still.
well, for a week, it's a different topic. Let's get into this. Okay, everyone wants to blame one person or one entity.
Well, you can't blame one person
So
for one.
so tell me, who do you put yesterday's offensive debacle on more, Carmichael or players? Because we talked about
I don't think
there
it
were some
matters.
there
I
were
think
some
it
players.
was all terrible.
Well, it doesn't matter, but I mean, like,
I can't pin it on one
I think that was a
person.
team effort of
It
just
was
terrible.
It's a total team effort of shit. Every single person on that offense, from the
was
coaching
systemic.
staff all the way down to the last player on the depth chart,
Yeah.
has blood on their hands.
Jawan Johnson saw it coming. He just stayed in the tunnel.
he
He
walked-
just didn't even come out.
He ran out and said, "Nope, turn around."
Max's MVP decided not to play.
So is it safe to say do you feel like Max, like,
He's given me
There was-
0 2 times out of 4 weeks in fantasy.
so I'll ask you all both. Do y'all feel like there was a lack of? I mean, this might be an easy answer, but did you see a utter lack of execution on the offensive skill
Is
players'
that a
part?
serious question?
I mean, because like some of them, but we talked about it, some of them did.
Corey,
but some of them
yesterday
didn't.
was a prime example of A, lack of execution, B, lack of adjustments, lack of whatever you want to throw in there.
So it was
that's
like-
what it was.
So we all agree that we had bad play calling, going
Bad
to
execution,
players
everything.
playing poorly.
Everything.
whose heads
It's a
weren't in the
perfect
game.
storm. You don't score
It's a
6
perfect
points
storm.
without everyone sucking. And
Yeah.
we've talked extensively about Olave's performance. I have no idea what was going on. Carr was terrible. Carr was, I don't know.
Well, here-
he
I
played
don't-
so much better the first 2 games than he did today, and he wasn't great in the first 2. But that was really bad.
Carr looked exactly how the rest of the nation's reporters
Yeah.
described him when we saw
That was what was concerning.
Like, that
You
is
know?
literally, it is to a T where everyone's like, yeah, he's somewhere in the 20s. One guy, I can't remember, he does his QB rankings every year. He had Carr and Andy Dalton separated by 1 spot
Yeah.
on his rankings.
Yeah.
And guess what? That looks true to fucking life right now.
Well, let's say this.
Carr is just Andy Dalton with a $180 million contract right now.
What do you think about the difference between Carr versus Jameis? Do you think there's a difference there?
Clutch by Jameis there, coming in underthrowing by 20 and getting his pick in real
That was,
quick.
that was,
I mean,
yeah.
That was a horrendous throw.
That was classic. I think
Well,
Jameis
do you
one of
even
one
want that, though?
self-destructive.
Do you really want to see Jameis come in and throw
No,
2
I don't.
touchdowns?
I'm just
We don't
asking.
want to, like, it behooves them, and I brought this up in the preseason, where I said it's bad to keep him on the roster. Because if Carr starts off bad
I'll
or
be
has
honest
a
with
real bad game and Jameis comes in and throws a couple of touchdowns, the fucking cult of Jameis is not going to shut up.
But
Oh, yeah.
that is perfect. What happened is perfect for people to check
Thank
themselves.
God,
and be like,
that's what
okay,
happened.
maybe
Probably
I'm out of my head.
The best interception thrown by the Saints.
Can you imagine if Jameis
that
throws
was
it?
an epic bad pass.
Can you imagine if he comes in and throws, and that's a 70-yard touchdown? Twitter
what
would have
you're
been in fucking shambles about
I hear
why
what you're
didn't Jameis start, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but now look at him. 0 for 1 pick on a just horrendous decision to throw it. 2, horrendous pass. It was bad, and it checked every box. It
Well,
was so
thank God
damaging.
it happened, because it would be a bad place today if that dude throws a touchdown or throws a 2 touchdowns and brings us a little bit closer.
Yeah, because
People would be
we
having
still
a
would have
meltdown.
lost. Yeah, I mean, for me, the Chris Olave thing is mind-boggling because it's like
And y'all are going to have to speak more to that, because I was at the game. I couldn't
well, it
see
came up
whether he
it
was
came up
loafing or
on,
whatever.
on the TV broadcast, and they showed a replay, and it also came up. We were talking about having the access to the all 22, view of the game. One of the guys who's been doing it for a while, and I think he's a great follow, is Rev Deuce at Rev Deuce Wyndham. He typically does player scouts. Like, he'll take the whole game and break it down. This past game he did like a breakdown of the play calling and coaching. He said it's a little bit out of his comfort zone, so maybe there's some on there that maybe we don't all agree with, but I think he did a good job of at least taking a few and highlighting that, okay, on these plays, these players were just put in awful positions to where there's a couple throws that Carr made, like put the ball on a dime. But it was just most of these throws, these guys were in terrible position. And so, meaning like we have strengths to the middle of the field, but yeah, we're running all these guys.
Highlighted on that out route, though, Carr never should have thrown that out route. The receiver in the flat was open, and it was a 3rd and 1. Wasn't it Thomas in the flat there? That's a turnaround catch, first down.
Yeah, and the thing about, I don't know, when I saw Carr, we go back to the Olave thing, when I saw Carr holding on to the ball that long,
Well, that's a Carr thing.
Well, but here's the thing. We can't
Carr
tell.
family, actually.
And look, full
All of
disclosure,
them.
big shocker, I have not watched every play on the All-22 view. But, I would believe it if it's a Jameis thing because of his track record. But, we can't tell what the receivers are doing down the field. And if you've got a lackluster, one of two things. You've got lackluster effort from guys like Olave who aren't running into the soft spot of the zone, or if they're in man, they're not running hard enough to get separation from their guy. Or you've got plays being called that are putting the receivers in the same exact passing window, and so they're covered by default. I can't believe, and call me out on it if you want, but like I can't believe that it's all on Carr holding. It could not have been. It could not have been there.
Hold on.
It could not have been there.
It's not all
bad
on
yesterday,
anybody. And
No,
we need to-
I'm
we
not saying
need
all.
to-
I'm not saying all. I'm saying the holding the ball. I'm saying Carr holding the ball.
No, it's a combination.
I think has to be on play calling and the receivers
Yeah.
as well, because I just think if something's there, he's throwing it.
And look, I know it's human nature. Everybody wants to
That
be
ball
able to.
went to the flat quick a lot.
Yeah, everybody wants to latch
Because nothing
on.
else was there.
Everybody wants to
But it's
latch
too
on to a
quick.
singular thing that is causing,
Yeah.
the chaos, and we can't do that because it is, as Nick said, a perfect storm where all of these things are coming together and going wrong at the same time, which is causing this shitstorm of an offense that we're seeing. It's a combination of the play calling. It's a combination of the execution by the players. It's a combination of Carr. It's a combination of the offensive line, the wide receivers, the tight ends. Do we even have tight ends on our team?
Well, we didn't this week. They were all
I
hurt.
mean, Jimmy played, but he
didn't block
did better
anybody.
as a blocker than a
Let's put it this
receiver.
way: if we were playing fairly well on offense and this game happened, everyone on the planet would be saying, "We laid an egg. Let's just throw that tape away and move on."
Right.
The problem is we aren't playing well on offense, and then we just made it worse. So now it's a huge, huge issue. Things are, like y'all said, are not going in an upward direction; they're going in a down direction.
Yeah.
Last week you could write off with Carr getting hurt at halftime. Fine, I'm in that group. Today there's no excuse, or yesterday there's no excuse. That was an epically bad performance. Coaches, players, there was no heart in it on offense at
None.
all.
None.
Defense, very little heart. We haven't talked about that yet, but who really showed up on defense? Brzee, that's
Yeah.
it.
That's it.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah. The whole,
Alante got beat a couple times. Yadam had the great play, but he also got torched by Godwin. I mean, if we're being fair. Now, he did make the biggest defensive play of the game, too. Saved a touchdown that we immediately gave back. But the defense got to third down a lot early in the game and could not get off the field. I mean, Baker converted like 5 of 6 3 of them I think were on scrambles, which, not necessarily his forte. He converted a 3rd and 8, a 3rd and 6. The defensive line has gone backwards since the first 2 games for sure. They're not getting home. They're not even getting a lot of pressure. So
Brazil's the only one on a week-to-week basis who's actually gotten better on defense. But let me say this.
Yeah.
I want to see what Carr's stats are, his passing stats, and I meant to do this earlier. If you pull out the 40-whatever yarder to Rashid Shaheed in week 1, you pull out the long pass to Olave in week 2.
Yeah.
I want to see what his stats are, and I want to see if, you pull those 2 plays out, do we even win those games? And secondly, what are his stats?
No, I mean,
Because
I think
this is not a good start for him.
it's funny because we're looking back after a negative saying, if he doesn't do that, do we even win? But in those first 2 games, we're like, Derek Carr won the game for us.
Right.
He won.
Well, they
and
were
it's like, so
clutch.
the answer to that,
They were clutch, but
I'm not going to
Jesus.
take that away
so the
from
answer
him.
to that
Those were
question
clutch
would be,
throws.
if you take them out, then we don't win.
Correct.
So,
We don't win those games if he doesn't make those 2 throws. And those 2 throws were perfect.
Yeah, and look, I get, we talked about it before in the last couple of weeks that, there was going to be some adjustment period coming over from the preseason and training camp since the offense didn't have that many reps together as a unit. But the reality is we're a quarter of the way through the season. We are 1 out of 4 through the season. So they've got to get their shit together.
Again, I keep saying this week to week, and at some point it's going to run out. But if you'd have told me we were 2-2, I wouldn't have thought it was the end of the world before the season.
Agree.
When you start 2-0 and you look like that in the last, just the last 6 quarters have been terrible, you feel differently. But 2-2 is not the end of the world. But if this doesn't get going immediately, it's a bad sign. It has to change immediately. Someone has to step up leadership wise. I feel like Carr had done that in the preseason.
Yeah.
I don't know why there's just not,
Well,
at some point, though, his actions have to.
You can't just keep saying I'm going to play better. Right. You got to play
He's got to
better.
play better.
Yeah, he's saying the right things, and a lot of the players were sufficiently pissed off and saying the right things yesterday. But, another thing that people were talking about in the whole debacle shambles aftermath was, what the hell was it that we were looking at in the offseason, in training camp, in the preseason when the offense did look good? Do y'all think...
Yeah, but did it? We saw Carr for 1 drive in the preseason. None of us saw training camp. We harped on you all offseason, he's throwing passes on air.
Right.
That means jack shit
Well, no,
in the mini camps.
all the
so we didn't
reporters-
see anything in preseason, training camp, or any of that told us Carr was going to be good.
No, there was, as you know, there was a lot
You
coming
just saw
out
us
about...
organized.
You saw us more organized, and you saw him
Yes.
huddling the guys. But you didn't see him throwing in live situations. He had 1 drive.
They ran team drills against their ones, Max.
Did you watch all of these, Coy?
No, I didn't watch, but
Okay,
we saw
so what I'm telling you is
reports.
No, we didn't see it. We just heard reporters saying he completed passes on air.
So, but all of the reporters, except for, hell, maybe Jeff Duncan was right the whole time because he was the only one saying anything bad about him. But
he told Max we were going to thrash Tampa yesterday, so that's
great.
Him too much credit.
Hot take. I'm glad you outed him on that one. That needed to be known. But but when we had the joint practice against the Chargers and Mike Thomas was beating J.C. Jackson and we had success
but you
against.
do realize there was a
hear me out.
different take on that from the Chargers beat reporters.
But that's what
so
I'm
you're
saying.
getting 2 completely different takes. So there's the truth somewhere in the middle.
But we can all agree that everyone who has access to the team, aka our beat reporters who watch the team, watch them with Carr.
Not everybody. Because Duncan, you just said it. Duncan was one of them that wasn't.
Everybody,
he was raining on that parade the whole time.
You can admit, this is taking too long to just say, the reports were positive about the way the offense looked.
They're always positive in training camp.
Y'all just both need to come to my side and say preseason is meaningless.
I'm on your side with that. I've been on that.
I don't buy into it at all.
I don't either.
Do we think the way the offense was reported to be clicking earlier in training camp and in preseason was just a mirage at this point?
Yes, I think
Apparently
it was.
it was.
I think it was positive. I think it's always positive.
It's always positive.
The question is is there really something there for us to get quote back to, or are we? This is what we are.
I think we're still on the figure it out part. I don't think we got anywhere yet.
Because if you talk to the players, you hear the quotes from the players. I haven't talked to any players, so to your point, Max. But if you hear the quotes from the players, they're saying the way we were operating in training camp, the way we were operating in the preseason, and even points in when they had success against the Titans and stuff, that was real. We had a flow. We had a cohesiveness. That was real. And they almost sounded like something from a chick flick. That was real to us. Do you think it was real?
No,
Is there
it
anything to
hasn't
get back
been
to?
real all season. We have not been able to run the ball all season.
Well,
the offensive,
part of that, AK missed 3 games. Now Jamal's missed 2 games. Miller's been hurt the whole time. Got a knee brace on still.
I hear you, but the offensive line was a shit show the first 2
Jawan
weeks.
out, Foster out. Offensive line's been terrible. Pete's now hurt, I think. We've
Yeah,
got
concussion.
Ruiz out.
Well, to a point
So-
you made, Max, like when Pete was in there, they actually had some daylight on the running game, and then he goes out with a concussion.
Well, I mean, look,
And-
Hurst is regressed. I mean, I think he's 31 or 32. He's a backup at this point, and I think they realize that. I think when all these concussions clear up, hopefully soon, you're going to see Pete at left guard, and you'll see Ruiz at right
I hope
guard,
so.
and Hurst will go to the bench.
Because that's been the best combination for us so far,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. But to answer your original point, I think obviously everything that they talked about, all the beat writers, all of them,
All the hype, the
it
positivity.
was a mirage. But to Nick's point, this is every single year in
I don't know.
OTAs, in mini camps, in training camp, and especially now when you don't even see starters in the preseason anymore. That now it's just like it's their thing. They got to hype it up. It's the product. They got to sell the product.
I think that's
These
a
guys-
little bit revisionist, though, because we were not that hype the year before. We were not that hype with Jameis.
I mean-
or Dalton.
I remember
you know,
hearing Jameis looks fantastic in minicamp and all that. It was the same shit, dude. And Nick and I tried to tell you when I don't remember what episode it was. It was one of the minicamp OTA ones, and you were leading off with like Carr was 15 of 16 in practice or whatever. It's like
He was perfect.
he's throwing against air, and it doesn't fucking matter.
No, he was perfect in the team.
And to
drills.
Nick's point, preseason doesn't fucking matter. It matters from a standpoint of like getting reps in
Preparation.
and getting cohesion with your teammates, but like the actual results, like no one's scheming. You're playing against half these guys are going to be fucking working at Trader Joe's the next week.
Yeah.
So yes, it was obviously a mirage, given that we have seen 4 straight weeks of just not good offense.
Yeah. So now that we know where we are, what do you think we need to do to correct it? I mean, because they say working hard. I mean, if I hear DAs use the phrase "working hard to fix it," it's like that. You said that every fucking week that he's been head coach. What do you want to see? We got to see
I
something
think we
different.
covered it earlier. Like you and I think we're on the same page about let Ronald Curry call the plays. It's obviously we can all agree that they're not going to make. You're not going to fire the offensive coordinator and change the offense in week 5, nor should they.
Right.
It's one of these things where the offense is the offense, and it's going to be the offense for better or worse through all 17 games. At this point, give someone else a shot at calling plays and just see if that gives you a spark. If you guys saw the Steelers yesterday, they were pretty embarrassed after their loss to the Texans. And someone asked Mike Tomlin, do you have any changes coming? He said, absolutely, there will be changes this week.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Because that is
afraid
a
to say it.
fucking a borderline Hall of Fame coach, if not Hall of Fame coach, who isn't going to stand for this bullshit for fucking more than a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
And I
that's
bet you they get it together
but
somehow.
That's for
To
me.
be fair, what do you think he does, honestly?
Well, so Pickett's hurt. I don't know how long he's out. I'll be honest with you, I don't know the Steelers situation. I just don't.
I'm
can't
just saying
speak.
that a lot of that's lip service, and that's probably the best thing to say in an interview.
Say it.
Yeah,
But he's not overhauling his team after a.
I didn't say he was going to overhaul it, but I promise
Right.
you there'll be some new. There'll be a starter or two that's new in a key spot, or somebody else is going to call offensive plays. I told you I watched the Steelers the previous week, and I had a bet on Jalen Samuels having to get to the 4 catches, and just watching that offense, it was so fucking predictable.
Yeah.
Like I think I was texting you, Nick. I'm like, yeah, look, Pickett, he drops back, he locks right into his
part of that
primary
is
target
Pickett's
the entire time. And it's like if they bring in Samuels, he was either going to block or it was going to be a flare out to him on 3rd down.
Yeah.
If Najee Harris was in, it was going to be a run right up the gut. They did that for the entire 4 quarters that I watched that game, and like I couldn't even. My eyes were burning. Like it was bad.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. I mean, like you can only like these guys are going to say the things we expect them to say in a press conference, but like I don't know, with DA, it just strikes me that he's unwilling to just get out there and say, yeah, everybody is at square one. I think you've heard coaches say before, it's like whoever shows up and plays the best, that's who's going to play. Well, that same shit has to apply. He has to instill fear in his coaches. One thing, at least good about Sean Payton, is all the coaches felt like they were on a short leash. He put the fear of God into his staff. I don't see that with DA. I don't see that, all the assistants running around are like afraid of DA. And I'm not saying that they should be afraid the same way. I don't think DA should be a complete asshole or a complete dick the way Sean Payton was. But it's like, at least get up there and publicly say, like, yeah, we're going to look at everything. We're going to look at Carmichael. We're going to look at the passing coordinator. We're going to, we're going to look at everybody. We're going to look at the wide receiver coach.
Yeah.
Just at least say it. Don't get up there and say, oh, we're not going to change anything.
Or just get up there and go to Jim Mora route and just say diddly poo.
Yeah, he didn't say diddly poo. Man, that's something. But I think Jim Mora was fired like the next day after that interview.
Quit. He didn't get fired. He quit.
He got tired.
He just looked at it and said, "Fuck it, I'm out." And God, man,
enough
I was looking
bitching.
at that.
Let's look at how bad we predicted this game.
Oh God,
Do you have it written down?
I have it written down.
Well, hold on. I know I said it was going to be an offensive slog.
I said that too. I think we agreed on that.
I think we all agreed on that.
We said this is going to be hard as shit to watch.
Yeah.
At least we got that part right.
No, we got that right.
Yeah. We all said we needed a defensive touchdown to win. So, Corey 17-14. Honey Badger would get a turnover.
Offensive MVP was Mike Thomas.
Mike Thomas, I mean, he's got a case. That's how rough it was, even though I think he had
Kamara.
5. You give it to Kamara?
I would put Kamara over MT. Even some of Kamara's runs were when he had
runs were great.
Kamara ran hard.
Yeah.
Kamara's absolutely.
That was another play calling thing where like when they kept forcing him to the outside, and I'll hit on it real quick, but holy shit, that reverse was one of the worst play calls I've ever seen. No one's running after Derek Carr when he has the ball.
Did you see the two lead blockers? Pete just ran by the two guys who made the tackle, ran right between them. They both went right by him. And Prentice came across the formation and just kept running. And he never touched anybody. He just kept going to the sideline. It was bizarre.
Just to add a little more color to Kamara as the MVP, I looked up. It was one point in the fourth quarter, and I remember looking up at the stats when they posted them, and it said Kamara, and I want to say it was like 9 carries for 50 yards at that point. And I'm like, how the hell is he averaging 5 yards a carry in this game with like 0
He looked good running it. He had 24 touches for 84 yards, all in. Obviously, a lot of those catches were not his fault. They were thrown in just terrible situations.
Kamara's the offensive MVP. Isn't
the only other case, Thomas was 4 for 53, and that was on 6 targets.
Didn't he disappear until the fourth quarter, basically?
Well, he had 2 in the first
if you look
half.
at
I think it was 2 in each half.
Looking at the film,
it
wasn't a lot.
That was another frustrating thing that ran him out of the plays. It's like when you have Shaheed and Olave, why is Thomas the one running deep down the field?
So who was the defensive
dropped a
MVP?
screen too. So
Brzee.
Brzee's the defensive MVP.
Yeah, by far.
But I had Taysom. It looked like it was going to be a game featuring him in the first half. We tried to get him the ball. It was unsuccessful. I think he had 1 catch, 4 carries. He threw a pass. It looks like we were going to feature him, and then he just wasn't getting anything on the ground, and we kind of got away from it. But not a great game for him. 17 total yards from scrimmage plus a 13-yard pass.
Right.
Max had Juwan, who decided not to play. I had Lattimore on defense.
Juwan has some TikTok videos to film with his wifey.
Hey, it's important. These guys have brands now.
And Max had Alante, who was okay. I know he got beat on a couple routes. Lattimore gave up 1 route for sure to Mike Evans on an out route where he was beat. But otherwise, pretty solid. He had 5 solo tackles. Alante, what did he finish with?
It was a weird defensive game because, like, besides Brzee,
it just seemed like nobody did anything other than Brzee.
Nobody stood out.
Brzee played. He had 3 tackles for loss, a sack. I think 5 tackles.
He was awesome. I'll say this from being basically field level watching the game. It's hard for me to really see what's going on big picture wise, other than like who's getting the ball and all that.
Oh, well, quick shout out. We saw what you were doing when you got on TV.
Showing heart and fire, which the fucking team didn't do. But
that was one of the few highlights of the game. Was your video?
That was the only highlight. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing, Brzee, definitely defensive MVP for the game. Kamara, offensive MVP. We were all pretty spot on with our assessment that the offense was going to be terrible again and it was going to be a slog. It absolutely was. We just gave them the credit of we thought they would score a touchdown. And we thought they would win. But I guess we should say one thing about the defense. Brzee was great. Everybody
that-
else was
I
kind
think-
of
yeah. I mean, I think we
Streaks
just
over, the 20-point streaks
we hit on it.
over.
I mean, they let. I mean, I think like the initial defensive coverage was okay, but then the plays broke down. You know,
Yeah.
it's like they let Baker run around. And look, I
was
said
getting ready
that.
to say,
I
the
said
D-line
this.
didn't get home, and that's why they got most of everything they got. The secondary held up for 4 seconds all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the D-line either let Baker get out of the pocket and run for the first down, or he had 5+ seconds to find a secondary option and beat us.
What I
It
said-
it
what I
felt
said I
like it
hoped-
got to third and like 3 or 4 a lot.
Yeah.
And we would just give up a yard more than they needed.
What I said in our preview pod, and yeah, I'll give myself credit on this. What I did want to happen happened, and that was we didn't get the pressure we needed to. Baker felt comfortable all game.
Yeah.
When Baker feels comfortable, Baker feels confident. He acts like a douche and is cocky, and he did it to his benefit. And
I'm happy for him.
You know, I'm sure you are. Hate that guy.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
What's
But no,
crazy-
he was comfortable and he made plays, and that's just what it boils out. We that's it. That's all. That's what
One
the defense
last thing,
did.
they only ran 6 more plays than us, and it felt like they ran 100 more plays than us. That's how bad our offense was.
Yeah.
The defense, I think, was okay except for on third down. They gave up over 50%.
That's what
killed them.
That's what I saw. You know, from being there, it just seemed like we were okay, and then we get the third down and blow it.
Yep.
We put on a master class of holding onto the ball and not doing shit with it
Yeah.
in this game.
All right. Well, I think that'll wrap us up on this episode. Tune in a couple of days. Hopefully, we'll have something a little more positive to talk about when we tackle the Patriots game.
24-hour rule.
24-hour rule, exactly. All right. Thanks, guys.
Who dat?